Yo, 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 this is Marlo. This is Paradigm Shift. I'm back to you with another video. This time we're talking about how to keep a long-term relationship going strong. Um, my longest relationship has been 3 years, and I know maybe to some of you that might not seem that long. But that relationship really prepared me for all my other relationships because it was my first one. I was really young, and it was pretty toxic and brutal, but it really showed me what I didn't want from a relationship. And that's the thing. Every relationship that you have is going to show you something. Maybe there are a lot of parts that were good, maybe there are parts that were bad, but it's going to show you, okay, these are the things that I want. These are the things that I don't want. And then your next relationship is going to show you more things. And if your next relationship doesn't have the things that you want and has a lot of the things that you don't want, then you need to get out quickly. Because the more and more you stay in these toxic relationships, these relationships that you don't want, that you already know because your last relationship showed you, if you're staying in there, then you are being unconscious and you're not being present. And it's just going to hurt you more and more. But the number one thing for a long-term relationship to me is constant, honest communication. And not just about, how beautiful your partner is, how amazing they are, which is great. One thing that I think is missing in a lot of, especially younger relationships, younger people is, these games that people play where it's like, I don't want to compliment them too much. I don't want to tell them how amazing they are. Tell them how beautiful they are, how they make me feel is so good. I don't hold back. And when I was younger, I did. I would think, dude, if I say too much, if I compliment them too much, they're going to think that I'm a loser, or, they're going to get bored or tired of me. But you know what? People who can't take those compliments, who do feel that you are weaker or something, they're not meant for you. You want to have a beautiful, happy, good relationship where both of you, enjoy being with each other, where you admire each other, where you love each other fully. And, that doesn't come from being this weird, like, game playing, thing that a lot of us do. And I've done it in the past. So it's really great when you find someone who can take the compliments, who can give them to you, right? But communication is so key, and it's a lot about talking about the things that bother you, the things that annoy you, that hurt you. If your partner says something, and it can be a very small thing, right? Say your partner says, wow, is your belly getting bigger? Or like pokes your belly and grabs your fat or something like that, right? Or says like, you'd look better with long hair. Or, these little comments that can annoy you and bug you. And you're thinking like, what? Why would you even say that? Like, are you trying to tell me something, or do you not like the way I look? Right? That's what you're thinking when your partner says that to you. If you don't call them out, or if you don't tell them the truth of how it made you feel, that thing, that little comment is going to grow inside you. And it's going to, it starts out as a little pebble on your shoulder, then it becomes a rock, then it becomes a boulder. And if you don't tell them and talk about it right away, that it's just going to expand. And then one day after 5 months or 6 months, you're going to blow up at them and you're going to yell at them and say, I can't believe you called me this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, whoa, what? Like, I had no clue that bothered you. Because a lot of the time people say things and they don't understand how it makes you feel. But when you talk about it, and I'm not telling you to go and yell at them. I'm telling you to talk about it and say, that bothered me. Why did you say that, right? You talk about it. You open these gates. People are so closed normally with their family, with their friends. They don't want to talk about things. They or go to work and they don't want to start controversy, which is fine. But I would even stress to do it in every relationship, but especially in a romantic long-term relationship, right? Once you open those gates and your partner understands, okay, my partner has boundaries. I don't want to say things like this because I don't need to, because I know it makes them angry. I know it makes them sad. And then they start being open with you because there are 100% things that you do as well to your partner that you may not understand, you may think is funny, or you may just be joking. You might not mean it, and it's bothering your partner. But there's no way to know until your partner or you bring it up, right? Then you have a conversation about it. And maybe you do get angry in the beginning, right? But once you start talking about it, once you and your partner realize we can talk about literally anything, that's when a long-term relationship, that's when the closeness starts to really form. And when you just start out in your relationship and you start doing that at the very beginning, it sets you up for a year down the road, 5 years down the road, 10, 20, right? Until they end. And it's all laying the groundwork, the blueprint in the beginning, right? Because if you are with someone for 10 years and all of a sudden you want to start communicating, yes, you can do it. Obviously, if you're in a long-term relationship already and you don't have the communication skills, start doing it now. Do it as quick as possible, because the problem is if you go 10 years without any communication, then all of a sudden you want to start communicating, your partner isn't going to understand like what is happening. We didn't do this for 10 years. Now all of a sudden you want to do it, right? So you need to lay the groundwork early. But obviously, if it's not possible, if you're already in a long-term relationship, then you got to do it as quick as possible. And there's going to be even more heavy resistance if you're 5 years, 10 years into a relationship, right? But the thing is, you have to listen as well. This can't just be you venting all your problems. You have to listen to them. You have to be as truthful as possible. And like everything that you do, that you output into a relationship is hopefully coming back to you. The more and more you do something, the more and more truthful you are, the more and more loving you are, the more and more caring you are, your partner is going to feel that. And if you're in a happy, good, non-toxic relationship, that partner is going to give the things back to you, right? Communication is just so important. And it can be about everything. You know, you need to, if you, like I said, you have to lay the blueprint, right? So if you want kids, you talk to your partner, or maybe they're not even your partner. Maybe you're just dating and you're 2-3 months into dating, but you see long-term possibilities. If you really want kids, you need to talk about it with your partner right now. Don't wait a year, 2 years in the future, because if they don't want kids, if they know they don't want kids, and you really do, there's that conflict right there that probably you can't get over, right? So if you're waiting a year, 2 years down the road, then talking about it, that's not open communication, right? And you might say, well, if I say that and they don't want kids and we break up, then what's the use of that? Well, there is the realization that that partner might not be good for me, right? Not everybody is meant to be with each other. And maybe you find someone who has great qualities and you really love being with them, but there's a deal breaker, right? So you need to know what your deal breakers are. These are the big things, right? I want to have kids. If your partner doesn't, how can that work? It can't. If these are deal breakers to you, right? If you don't like smoking and your partner smokes, these are deal breakers. These are things you have to lay the groundwork for. You have to get out of the way in the beginning. And in the relationship I'm in now, I'm really happy and I'm communicating really well. And maybe this is the first time ever where I've communicated things like this, where I haven't been scared to say things. And the more and more I do it, the more comfortable I am doing it in, every other time. And then we realize, okay, this is my boundary. This is what I don't want you to do. This is what I don't want you to say. And I realize these are her boundaries. She doesn't like me doing this. There are times where I've said things like a joke and my partner has told me she doesn't like it. And I realize, oh shit, this affected her somehow for some reason, and I shouldn't do this in the future. Then I realize and I don't do it anymore. It sounds so simple, but it can be a very tough thing to start and get through. But my real advice is just start it early. Start it as soon as possible. And you realize if your partner isn't able to handle these type of things early, if they don't want to communicate, they say, I don't want to talk about it, and they constantly do that and it doesn't get better, that person is not right for you. Really, you have to start realizing who is right for you and who isn't. You might find someone who you're so attracted to physically, but they're just not there. They don't want to communicate. They don't want to get serious. They don't want to talk about real shit. That person's not right for you, no matter how hot you think they are. You got to start realizing long-term relationships aren't just about looks and sexual attraction. They're about everything, right? I mean, if you're not attracted to them physically right off the bat, or, if there's no attraction, that can be a problem too. You have to be real with yourself, right? But the communication and the inside and the things that are happening with you two together alone, these are the important things. So communication is just literally the number one. The next thing I want to talk about is realizing that your partner has a life of their own. And it's kind of, I would say, like, compromising and, letting them be who they are. And you need to realize that too, right? If their life is they go out clubbing into bars every weekend and you don't like that, there's a conflict there, right? That person is probably not right for you. If they spend all their times with their friends and you only see them once a month or once every 2 weeks and you don't like that, that person's probably not right for you, right? But you also need to know that your partner has had a life before you and they can't spend every single day, every single hour with you. It's you don't want to be restricting like that. You don't want to be restrictive where, you become jealous and you hold on to them and you can't let them go and you don't want them seeing friends and you start to get angry, right? That is not going to be a great long-term relationship because, sometimes we want to hold on to them because we think we found the perfect one and we don't want anybody else to experience that and we want to keep them for ourselves. But, if you see beauty in your partner, wouldn't you want the world and other people to see that too? Because they're giving back to the world. They're a positive influence in the world. And the more and more you try to hold on to that and keep that for yourself, the more that your partner is going to move away from you, right? So you have to let them be. But saying that, if you don't see your partner ever and you want to see them and they're saying you're being too restrictive, well, that person doesn't really want a real relationship, right? You know, if something is important to you, within a certain boundary, right? Like it's unfair to ask someone to hang out with you every single day. But if you want to see someone once or twice a week in a long-term relationship, and you're not getting that, and you're talking to them and wondering why, and you're just realizing they're not committing, that's probably not right for you. So it's all about realizing what you want out of a relationship. And a lot of that comes from being in different relationships. So you actually have to get out there and try and fail and reanalyze and realize, I didn't like this about that person. I liked this about that person. Then you take the good things and you try to find it. And well, you don't try to find it in the next person, but you go and find the next person. And then you realize they have it, right? You need to know your deal breakers. And you need to realize the compromise that comes in a long-term relationship, because you're not going to get your way all the time, and you shouldn't get your way all the time, because that's too one-sided, right? So a real long-term relationship, it has to be balanced, equal, right? If you are the only person going out and getting surprises and buying things for your partner, you go to the store and you buy them chocolates that they like, but then your partner never gets that for you, well, then you will start feeling unbalanced. And the only way to bring that up, the only way to solve that is to bring it up. It might sound stupid, but you want your relationship to be as balanced as possible. If you are paying for everything, every time you go to dinner, every time you go out, you're paying, and your partner isn't even asking, that's not balanced. You can't sustain that in a long-term relationship. Maybe if you're a millionaire or, you're balling, that's okay. But even then, right, there's such an imbalance there. Anyways, it's also so much about balance, right? What you give should be reciprocated. It should be equal. Maybe the way you set your relationship up, you pay for everything and you don't expect your partner to pay for everything. If you really want that, that's fine. But long term, it just doesn't sound sustainable, right? And eventually, the next thing I want to talk about is eventually you're going to move in together. So if you go and you're going into this relationship for a year and everything's going amazing, or 2 years, and eventually you talk about moving in together, and you talk about it because you're open, because you set the blueprint early, and now you're moving in together. This is a whole new stage, right? There's all these stages of relationships. The beginning where you're just dating, and then you get serious and you see each other more and you're hanging out more. And then eventually you move in together, and now you're together. And then you get married, and then blah, blah, blah. So when you move in together, it changes everything, right? Because now you're seeing each other every day and you become comfortable. Because before, maybe you saw them twice a week and there was 4 days between when you saw them, and, there was this excitement building up throughout the week, and you're like, oh my God, 3 more days, 2 more days, 1 more day, I'm so stoked. And there's this distance that you have. And so that can really add excitement and a sense of like, oh, I can't wait to see them. But when you move in together, that changes, right? Because now you see them every day. You see them when they come home. You see them in the morning. You go to sleep with them. You're hanging out with them. Everything is together now. And there's obviously great advantages with bills are split, and, you get that safety and feeling of like, this is the person I want to be with. And we're together and we're doing this together. But obviously problems can arise. That sense of being too comfortable and taking them for granted, And, now you see them every day, and all of a sudden they just become like a roommate. There's no romance. You're not you're not learning about each other anymore. You're not working on your relationship. You're not communicating anymore because they're just there and they're always going to be there. Well, you know what? That's not true. And the reason that's not true is because I'm sure if you look at the stats, I haven't looked, but I'm guessing around 50% of marriages end up in divorce. I mean, maybe I should just look right now. You know what? I'm not going to look. I'm just going to say a lot of marriages end up in divorce, right? And I'm not even talking like, you move in with your partner, you're not even married yet. But from what I gather, because haven't really done this, to be honest, and I'm actually about to do this in a couple of months with my partner, but I just know that people start to take each other for granted, and the romance and the togetherness and the communication and learning about your partner and helping them with their goals and all this energy that comes in the beginning of the relationship starts to slowly die out because you start to become comfortable. You start to realize this person's going to be here forever, and they become a roommate. You come home from work, you eat dinner, you talk about the day, you go to sleep, then you rinse and repeat. And all of a sudden, you're not doing things that you did in the beginning. You're not surprising them to go out for dates. You're not buying them little presents. You're not talking to them about their life and their experiences and how they're doing. Those late night sessions where you're having wine and beers and you're just like getting to know each other so well. That stops. And what I see is, especially when partners have kids and all the focus is on the kids, right? Everything is kids, 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 of course, because they're the kids. And you just see your partner as someone who's raising the kids with you. Then when the kids grow up and they leave the house, all of a sudden you're staring over at this person who you don't even know anymore. Because 18 years, 20 years have gone by and your relationship stayed stagnant because all you thought about was the kids. And you might say, dude, you don't even have kids. I don't have kids. I don't know if I'm going to have kids, but just seeing other couples, seeing out the world out there and being present is allowing me to access this information. Like I just know that this is true because I know friends who've got divorced. My parents are divorced. My friends' parents are divorced. And I see this happening. You stop doing what made the relationship great in the first place. And it's all these things, communication, right? Talking about the problems, giving your partner compliments that you feel true about, going on dates, exploring the world together, traveling, right? If you're focusing on your kids, and I know you're telling me, dude, you don't have kids, you don't understand how hard it is, but you have to find some sort of time together. If it's 5-10 minutes a day when you have a baby and it's crying all day, you have to keep that communication and love and, ability to make them laugh and finding out what's wrong. And, because your partner is going through shit. You might not even know it. After a while of not communicating, they might start to just internalize everything. And then they go to other people to try to find that when you should be the rock, right? You should be the one that they go to and talk about all these problems with and try to figure it out together, because that's what it is. That's why it's called a partner, because you're partners in this life now, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. We're already almost hitting 25 minutes, so I don't really want to go on too much longer, but maybe I'll make a part 2 on this because there's a lot of stuff to get into. But kind of to reiterate, it's all comes down to communication. Communicate, talk to them, tell them your fears, you know, the things you like. Don't skimp out on the good things too, right? It's all about, you want to be positive. You want to be the person who is giving them compliments and telling them what they're doing right. But then you also want to talk about what's going wrong. And then you as yourself, if your partner is giving something to you, whether it's gifts, whether it's planning things, whether it's love, you want to reciprocate that. And if you're not doing that, you got to start doing it, because eventually your partner is going to feel that it's not 50-50. That can be a brutal feeling. If you are doing so much of something and you're not being reciprocated, you can start to feel like I'm not getting what I deserve. And, that's something you can also talk about, but that's a huge thing. And then as the relationship goes on, you start to move in together, maybe you get married, you have kids, you need to keep that foundation strong. Maybe you don't have time to do, when you have kids, to do things that you used to go traveling and stuff, but you need to find time to just have one-on-one, to connect, to, tell them how much you love them still, and talk about the problems that you see arising. And, you want to feel like a team. You want to feel like you can get through anything with that person. And it doesn't matter if you're 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years down the line. These things need to keep going forever. And it takes a lot of work, but I'm telling you, the rewards are amazing, because having a strong relationship with a romantic partner can be the best, most fulfilling feeling in the world. And you can accomplish so many other great things when you have that base, right? When you have a strong relationship at home. And, not just with your romantic partner, but with everybody. You can take these things and do it with everybody. But anyways, we're hitting 27, 28 minutes. I thought that was a really interesting episode, because these are things that I'm working on in my life as well. I'm not just some guru who knows everything. I'm working through this as well, even though I'm talking and teaching and helping you through it. But, it's never too late to start these things. If you haven't ever done this before, it's really never too late. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. These are all things that are going to make your life and your relationships amazing. So thank you for watching. That's Paradigm Shift. I had a great time talking with you. Peace out.